Welcome back to Central Valley Talk. If it's Tuesday and we're in the 11 a.m. hour, you know what it is. It's the Artist and Author Show. And since COVID, we were forced off the air, actually. We started bringing people onto our shows through a new technology we stumbled upon called Zoom. Everybody's heard of Zoom by now, but it's allowed us to bring in authors from all over the world on a variety of books and subjects, and it's really been good for Central Valley Talk. Our next guest, by the way, is coming to us from sunny Florida, Michael Ferguson. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks. Thanks for having me here.
Now, you have this fascinating book, The Genesis 6 Project. And one reason to me it's fascinating is with all good science fiction, it could be true. What do you call it? You suspend disbelief.
Exactly. It's a speculative fiction novel. It goes back for there's a 20 years ago there was a rumored interaction between the U.S. military and a biblical Nephilim or biblical giant in Afghanistan, and that's the premise of the novel.
Now, we've all read the Bible, or most of us have, and there are giants in the Bible. And this is the Afghanistan and all that area. That is kind of the biblical story area, isn't it?
It is. In this storyline, I have the creature who is pretty old. He's actually made his way from the traditional Middle East, and then has made his way over to Afghanistan over time, over the last 1,000 years or so. But yeah, that is part of the area for sure.
Yeah. Now, tell us what the Genesis 6 reference is.
The Genesis 6 actually referenced is really, if you look in the Bible in the 6th chapter of Genesis, there's a whole storyline there about fallen watchers, and their inappropriateness with humans and offspring being giants. And so that's kind of the premises. We kind of trace back this character's history back to that timeline, that lineage.
Yeah, fascinating. What an original idea. Well, original book, because as you were telling me earlier, there's been some news articles and some conspiracy people saying, yeah, this really happened. We really saw that in Afghanistan, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you go back and look and you type in things like words like Kandahar giant or Nephilim in Afghanistan, there's probably several hundred stories or links to this, rumored event. Again, I don't have firsthand information, but it was a rumored event, and there was a lot of people saying this happened, and so that's kind of what we pick up from hypothetically, if that did occur, what would be natural next steps.
Now, did this book take a lot of research, places in Afghanistan, what the military went through and their daily routine and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a combination of looking at, military science and trying to keep everything authentic and as close as factual and real as possible if you were talking about military, as well as locations of where this might occur, and then, kind of rationale for a creature like this, why it would be there. So it was a lot of steps in trying to pull pieces together based on rumor, but also taking things that are actual factual things and trying to merge them together.
Now, you called it speculative fiction, is that right?
Yes.
I've not heard that word, but that's a great description of this book.
Speculative fiction it's kind of a subgenre of fiction, and really you take an event and you then, it's a speculative piece, but then you speculate beyond that. So the fiction piece is, okay, what might have happened in Afghanistan with this biblical Nephilim, but then the speculative part is, okay, in the storyline it says that the U.S., the actual storyline of the rumor is that the U.S., killed the beast and they took it away in a big helicopter. And I actually speculate by saying, well, what happens if it didn't die and they took it to a U.S. genetics military research lab and mayhem occurs? And so that's kind of my speculative part.
You kind of took the story and twisted it into now. I don't know if we want to talk too much about this, but the story brings us back to the United States.
It does, and without giving the whole story away, there's a U.S. It's a made-up military lab in Montana, adjacent to an actual location, near a Native American reservation in mountains, And so that's where the events occur. And so I bring in, again, some speculation, but also factual locations and events. And I also tie in some Native American legends as well, because in certain Native American legends, there are histories and oral histories of Nephilim type of giants that fit the description of
Yeah.
what's in the book.
I was referring earlier to the research you must have had to do about Afghanistan and military presence there, but now you had to do the Native American research also.
Exactly right. So I looked back at different tribes and looked at some of the oral histories and actually found several that actually had what would meet the description of the interactions hundreds and hundreds of years ago of creatures like this.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting how they mirror up. What if you look at some of the historical, well, some of the events in the Bible, if you look at the flood and things like that, there are things that mirror up in the Native American legends that kind of mirror up with that, which
Interesting. That's very interesting. So, as a history buff, I only read nonfiction, but I'm going to read this because I'm going to pick up a lot of history in it too, Native American and military history and biblical history, things like that.
I try, because what I try to do is again, I try to pepper in as many things that are as close to factual as I can find, so that the reader will, someone had read the book once and they told me, they said, well, I don't know what is actually true and what's not true because they sound so close. You've actually put factual, historical things in there, and then you've married in some speculative on top of it, which made it interesting reading.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I'm excited to read it. I promised you last time you're on I'm going to read it, but now talking to you again, now I'm really motivated. I got to get that book. Now I'm going to go to Amazon. And I'm just going to type Genesis 6. Actually, I did it yesterday, and it popped right up. So it's not hard to find on Amazon. But you said it's also on Barnes & Noble?
Yeah, Barnes & Noble as well as Books A Million. Both those, all three carry it. I think it's only an online purchase, but they can get it to you in 2 or 3 days if you order it online.
Amazon is so easy, man. I press the button. There's no shipping, and it's at my house. So I really like that, Michael. So, any last thoughts? Anything else you want our viewers to know?
I've gotten a lot of great feedback so far since I'd come on. I hadn't got a lot of feedback, but I've gotten a fair amount of feedback since then, and people seem to really enjoy the book. And it's I would call it's got a lot of action, and it's got some thriller part of it, and again, it's a speculative fiction. So if you like that kind of genre, it'll be right up your alley.
Yeah. As I always say on these interviews, I tell our viewers, buy a couple of them. I like to get a couple of books. I give them away to my friends. Now we're all reading the same book at the same time, and that's a lot of fun too. So
great idea.
All right, Michael. Thank you for calling in. I know you're not in Central Valley. You're from somewhere on the east end of the country, and I appreciate you taking the time to call into our show.
Thanks a lot for having me.
All right, Michael. Michael Ferguson, by the way, is our guest, and the book is the Genesis 6 Project, and it's just a fascinating story. I really encourage you all to go and order it and get the book. We'll be back with more Central Valley Talk right after this.